Boundaries are a sort of skin around our emotional or psychological self, around the external part of who we are as an emotional or psychological human being. They're sort of a metaphysical concept in a way. And what I learned as a kid is my emotional boundaries were things that I really did not have a right to protect. I didn't have a right to enforce my boundaries. And a big part of it was that my parents, on a psychological level, believed that they owned me. They believed that their authority over me, over my emotional, psychological self, was more important than my authority over my emotional, psychological self. I was basically, in their minds, an extension of them. They didn't see me as an individual, autonomous person. And so therefore, my boundaries often really didn't count. Now, what happened is, at a certain point in my life, once I started growing up, becoming a teenager, realizing I'm headed toward adulthood, I started setting boundaries in my relationship with my parents. And it wasn't pleasant. They didn't like it. And the reason is because I was saying, you don't own me. I am not you. I have authority over myself. I can decide what I like and what I don't like. I think of one example that really comes to my mind. And the reason that it comes to my mind is because my dad held it against me for so long. I was a track athlete all through high school, and I loved it, and it was really important to me. It was a place that was mine. I was a team captain my last year, and like pretty much all the other kids, I wanted my parents to come to my track meets. That's when we competed against other schools, and I competed against other kids. The problem is, my dad would come to these events, and he would act out. He would talk way too loud. He would embarrass me. He would say embarrassing things. I would be running races, and I could hear my dad in the stands saying things that were totally inappropriate. He humiliated me. He shamed me. He embarrassed me. I would hear things afterwards from my teammates. You know, your dad said this about you, things I didn't want to hear. So the boundary that I set to my dad was, Dad, you're not welcome to come to my track events anymore. And the thing is, it wasn't like I set that boundary immediately. At first, what I did is I voiced my displeasure. I said, Dad, can't you just be respectful when you come? Can't you behave like the other parents and not say so much, not take over? Because my dad was the type of personality that when he would come to an event, he had to be the center of attention. He had to be the loudest voice, he had to be the most interesting person, the most important storyteller, the funniest guy, the smartest, whatever he was. And it was like, this was my chance to be someone who was doing something. It was my track events. So I gave him warning and told him, please, don't do that. Not here. It's not okay. And my dad's reaction was to feel rejected, to feel abandoned. And because he was so self-centered, he turned it around that actually I was causing him harm by telling him what he couldn't do. So even though fundamentally he was disrespecting me, by me setting that boundary and saying, no, you can't do that, you can't violate myself, you can't violate my private space, you can't violate my relationships in this way, I was saying you couldn't come inside that boundary, and he was asserting his right to do it. And he was not a very self-reflective person at all. So all he knew is that he felt bad and he blamed me, and his reaction was to do it even more loudly, even more assertively. And unfortunately, because of that, I had to then take it to the next level and say, you can't come. And he said, yes, I can. And I said, fine, you can come, but I won't run then, and I won't be there. If you go, I won't go. So even though I've been working at this for months and years to get better at it and to improve my skill, if you are going to dominate the event, I quit. And I was not kidding. I wasn't going to do it anymore. It hurt so bad what he was doing to me. And he stopped coming. But that wasn't the end of it, because he held it against me. And he humiliated me over and over and over again. You have no respect, you're this, this, and this, you're disgusting, you have no friends, blah, 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 blah. And this is part of what led me to come to the conclusion that this guy really isn't going to self-reflect. This guy isn't going to look at what his behavior fundamentally is doing that is alienating me. Now, through setting boundaries with my dad, ultimately, it's sad, I lost my relationship with my dad. But actually what really happened is I lost my relationship with my non-dad. Because really, when he was violating me, when he was disrespecting me, when he was harming me over and over and over again, physically attacking me even, he wasn't being a father. There's nothing fatherly about that. So really what I was losing was my fantasy relationship with my father. And over time, I've learned that about setting boundaries in general. The first thing that I find really, really important in relationships with other people is the people that I'm most drawn to, the people I like the best in the world, are people that I don't have to set boundaries with because they already intuitively understand what boundaries are and they respect my boundaries without me having to say anything. That is what healthier people do. That's what I really strive to do with other people. Respect their boundaries intuitively. They don't have to tell me over and over again, or at all most of the time, don't do this. So what I find is that when I have to set boundaries with people, it means they're doing something that is violating me. Now, perhaps it's true that in every relationship, ultimately, yeah, sooner or later we're going to have to set boundaries, even with the healthiest people, once in a while, but not that much. And what I found is that, especially very early on in relationships, if I find myself setting boundaries with people, especially extreme boundaries or setting boundaries multiple times, it's usually a sign that that's probably not a person that I want to be very close to, because that's someone who is violating me over and over and over again. And so what I've learned is, yeah, intuitively seek out the people that intuitively respect me. Sort of makes sense. And unfortunately, I've learned that the hard way. Because a big part of coming from a family with a father and a mother, because my mom was incredibly boundary violating in all sorts of different ways than how my father did it, what happened as the result of me growing up in that environment was that at some deep intuitive level, and it's pretty sad to say, what I learned is that boundary violations were a normal part of relationships. So in a lot of ways, I felt comfortable being violated. I felt like it was okay. So I had boundary violations in my relationships with a lot of my friends. I didn't feel so weird at all about teachers being violating toward me. It's like abuse was sort of a normal dynamic. Now the sad thing was also that boundary violations were also a part of how I behaved toward other people. I wasn't the most respectful kid because I didn't really know what respect was, because in many ways I had not been taught respect. To violate somebody's boundaries is to disrespect them. And for me, to disrespect someone else is to violate their boundaries. And I had to learn, wait a second, I can't do that to other people if I want healthier relationships with other people, if I want healthier friendships. And so I had to start listening to what other people said, or sometimes even what they didn't say, but how they acted. I had to see, did they like how I'm treating them, or do they not like it? And I started becoming more respectful. But really, fighting to respect my own autonomy was the start. Learning to see how I had been wronged and how to right those wrongs within myself, how to heal from my traumas, that set the stage for me having a self and ultimately to be able to respect other people's selves and to realize how I had the capacity also to violate other people's boundaries.